Hello everyone. In this video I am going to solve the Assistant Professor Physics paper conducted by KEA in March this year. Actually I have already made two parts of the question paper. It had 125 questions. I have solved around 80 questions till now. So in this video I am going to solve the rest of the paper and I am going to finish it. Okay, let's proceed. First question is, the 80th question of the question paper is, no two electrons will have all the four quantum numbers equal. This statement is Pauli exclusion principle. Pauli only stated that no two electrons will have all same quantum numbers. So option B is the right answer. Next question is, the doublets observed in alkali spectra are due to. Four options are there: presence of two alkali atoms, screening of k electrons, spin orbit interaction of the electron, and the presence of isotopes. Actually, the right answer is a spin orbit interaction of the electron. Spin orbit interaction, or the coupling of spin with orbital angular momentum, this gives rise to fine structure splitting of spectral lines, and this gives a full account of doublet structure of alkali spectra. That's why option C, spin orbit interaction of the electron, is the right answer. Next, question number 82 is, in a very strong magnetic field, the splitting of a spectral line is normal. This effect is called Raman effect, Stark effect, Zeeman effect. Here one may get confused between Zeeman effect and Pasternak effect because both describe the splitting of spectral lines only in the presence of magnetic field. But they are different in terms of the quantity of magnetic field, you can say. In Zeeman effect, spectral lines split in presence of static or weak magnetic field. This is in contrast to Stark effect, wherein spectral lines split in the presence of electric field. While for Pasternak effect, there is a very strong magnetic field. One strong magnetic field is needed for the spectral lines to get splitted. This effect is known as Pasternak effect. So here in the question they are talking about very strong magnetic field. That's why Pasternak effect, option D, is the right answer. Of course, Raman effect has nothing to do with magnetic field, so that will not be the right option. You may get confused between Zeeman effect and Pasternak effect. So just remember, weak magnetic field means Zeeman effect. Strong magnetic field means Pasternak effect. Okay, moving on to next question. Let psi is equal to C1 phi1 plus C2 phi2 plus C3 phi3, where phi1, phi2, phi3 being orthogonal eigenfunctions of H. Then four options are given. Psi is an eigenfunction of H only if phi1, phi2 and phi3 are non-degenerate. Psi is always an eigenfunction of H. Psi can never be an eigenfunction of H. Psi is an eigenfunction of H only if phi1, phi2 and phi3 are degenerate. So in this type of options, better don't see options. You may get confused. Just remember that is there any rule or any theorem which states so? So there is a theorem which states that non-degenerate eigenfunctions are orthogonal. So orthogonal, so non-degenerate is only in option A. That's why option A will be the right answer. Okay, moving on to next question. The quantum numbers of an energy state for the electrons in a cubical box is, the dimensions of the cubical box are given 1, 2, 3. Now we have to state whether it is a 9-fold degenerate state, 3-fold degenerate energy state, 6-fold degenerate energy state, or it is a non-degenerate energy state. Now we can find the possible degenerate states by seeing the dimensions of the box. It is 1, 2, 3. What are the possible states? If I write the probability, it will be 1, 2, 3. Then next probable state would be 1, 3, 2. Next would be 2, 1, 3. Next would be 2, 3, 1. Next state would be 3, 1, 2. And the last probable state would be 3, 2, 1. So total degenerate states are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So option C, a 6-fold degenerate and energy state will be the right option. By chance, if they are not asking about the degenerate states, if they are asking about the energy, then we know that energy is equal to n square h square upon 8ma square, where n will be equal to nx plus ny plus nz. So we can substitute here. E will be equal to 1 square, the dimensions of the cubical box, 2 square plus 3 square into h square by 8ma square. This will be equal to 2 square, 4 plus 1, 5, 5 plus 9. It will be 14 h square upon 8ma square. So this will be the energy. Now this energy will correspond to 6-fold degenerate states. You may also remember by the values of the energy also. Whatever the energy is, the corresponding degenerate states also you may remember in your mind. That is also one way of finding the answer. Okay. Moving on to next question. 85. The commutation relation for the operator u and dx gives. So they are asking the commutation relation for u and dx. See, we know in our previous class we did it, right? Commutation relation for AB will be AB minus BA. So here it should be u into d by dx minus d by dx into u. This should be equal to 0. So option B is the right answer. Okay, next question. The uncertainty relation cannot hold for the following pairs. See, energy and time and position and momentum. These both are very common when we talk about the uncertainty relation, the Heisenberg's uncertainty relation. But one may get confused between angular momentum and angle and linear momentum and angle. See, if we simply use our common sense, angle is related to angular momentum, not the linear momentum. So, angular momentum and angle should follow the uncertainty relation. Linear momentum and angle does not exist. Then how can it follow uncertainty relation? That's why option D is the right option. Okay, next question. Which of the following wave functions can be solutions of Schrodinger's equation for all values of x? I think it is A, e to the x square. This can be a solution for the Schrodinger's equation. Next question. The difference between the subsequent energy levels of a particle in a box follows the following trend as a function of n, where n is 1, 2, 3. We know that this energy is equal to n square h square upon 8ma square. With this relation, we can say that the trend followed is n square. So option B, n square will be the right answer. Okay, moving on to next question. In this video, I want to finish the question paper. Please, as I told earlier also in my previous videos, please let me know if I am making any mistake, or you can also give me your feedback, suggestions, so that I can improve myself. Also, you can also tell me what could be my future venture in the videos. Do you want me to teach KSET physics, or do you want me to teach physics for coming competitive exams, or KPSC, or something like that? Please let me know. Please feel free to comment in the comment section so that I get direction so as to in what way you all want me to teach physics. Anyway, I will somehow be related to physics only. I will be teaching physics, but what I teach, maybe it is dependent on the viewers. Maybe you can guide me in a better way. Whatever you all need, I will teach that. Okay, proceeding to the next question. Question number 89. The minimum value of angular momentum by coupling angular momenta 3 by 2 and 5 by 2 is. See, when you see the word coupling, no, the coupling, LS coupling, JJ coupling, something like that. If you are recalling something like that, then it is very good, because coupling means combining. Here coupling of angular momenta means combining them, right? So I have angular momenta L1 which is 3 by 2 and angular momentum L2 which is 5 by 2. Now they want me the minimum value. I know that for maximum value I take a mod of the sum of L1 and L2. For minimum value of angular momentum I take a mod for the difference of L1 and L2. So maximum will be 3 by 2 plus 5 by 2 or 8 by 2 or 4. And minimum value will be 3 by 2 minus 5 by 2 which is equal to minus 2 by 2 minus 1. Of course I have mod here. So all the negative values get vanished. So my minimum angular momenta becomes 1. Mod of minus 1 is 1. So option A is the right answer. Okay, next question. Of the following, moving with the same velocity, the one which has largest wavelength is. Remember de Broglie wavelength? When you see the options like this, which have alpha particle, electron, proton, neutron, and they are talking about wavelength, then you must suddenly recall this de Broglie wavelength. What does it say? It says that the de Broglie wavelength lambda is equal to h upon p. What is p here? P is momentum, right? So I write momentum as mass into velocity. I'm not wrong, right? So momentum is mass into velocity. Now they say that all the particles are moving with same velocity. So I don't bother about velocity now. Now I know that the de Broglie wavelength is inversely proportional to mass of the particle. Among the four given particles, electron is the particle which has the smallest mass, right? That's why it should have the largest wavelength. I have made some animated videos on this dual nature of matter. If you are interested, please go and watch. I will give the link in the description box. Okay, next question. The 0 point energy of one-dimensional harmonic oscillator is. See, we know that the energy for a harmonic oscillator E will be n plus half into h cross omega. For a 0 point energy, n becomes 0. So energy will become half h cross omega. So option C is the right answer. Okay, moving on. Next question. The Davison and Germer experiment confirms the E upon m value of Planck's constant, wave nature of electron, nuclear size. If you are well known with the dual nature of matter, then you will obviously tick the option C, because Davison-Germer experiment confirmed the wave nature of electron, and in fact it was the first experimental evidence of wave nature of matter. As I told before also, I have made an animated video on the same. You can watch it. I will give the link in the description. Okay, moving on. Dirac's relativistic theory predicts the existence of neutron, electron, positron and proton. It is positron. Actually, what happened was Dirac, he told that electron has a spin half along with magnetic moment and so on. And he also gave the theory of positron unknowingly. He didn't know it. After Anderson discovered the positron through an experiment, then only one could relate that, okay, what Dirac told was about positron. Okay, so option C is the right answer. Next question. The wave function of a state of the hydrogen atom is given by, where psi NLM denotes the normalized eigenfunction of the state with quantum numbers NLM in the usual notation. The expectation value of LZ in the state psi is. See, for this sum, you should be thorough with this type of problems. It is better, before going for any competitive exam, better to learn how to find the expectation value of energy or angular momentum or linear momentum. It's better because at least one question comes always. Anyway, for this LZ, for LZ, eigenvalues are related with only m, and that will be the product of h cross. That's all. Because they are asking the expectation value of LZ. That's why we need to have this. Eigenvalue is equal to mh cross. And then what I usually do is when I find this type of equation, no, I write NLM here, NLM, then NLM, again NLM, so that I don't make any mistake. I don't want to get into confusion while writing the exam. That's why I denote them like this, NLM, the quantum numbers. Okay. Now, as I told, the eigenvalue lambda. For lambda 1, if I take the first term, m is 0, right? Here, in the first term, m is 0. So, it will be 0 into h cross. Same way, for lambda 2, in the second term, m is 1. So, it is 1 into h cross. Then lambda 3, in the third term, m is 0 into h cross. Again, lambda 4, in the fourth term, m is minus 1 h cross. So lambda 1 becomes 0 and lambda 3 becomes 0. Lambda 2 is h cross and lambda 4 is minus h cross. Now there is one trick, or you say simple procedure to find the expectation value. To find the expectation value for LZ, what you do? P1 lambda 1 plus P2 lambda 2 plus P3 lambda 3 and so on. You do it like this. Now what is P1? P1 will be equal to the coefficient of the first term. It comes in the numerator. Take the square of that. Then denominator, you take the coefficients of all the terms given in the equation. First term coefficient is 1 square, plus second term is 2 square, plus third term is 3 square, and fourth term is root 2 whole square. So P1 will become 1 upon 1 plus 4, 5, 5 plus 9, 14 plus 2, 16. It will be 1 by 16. Now I don't need to write the denominator every time. I don't need to calculate it. I know that denominator is 16. So for P1 I took first term. For P2 I take second term. 2 is the coefficient of second term. So I write it like this. 2 square upon 16. It will be 4 by 16 or it will be 1 by 4. Similarly, if I do for P3, the third term, it has 3 as coefficient. I will write 3 square upon 16. It will be 9 by 16. Again for fourth term, square root of 2 is in the coefficient place. So I will take it in the numerator upon 16, 2 by 16. So it will be 1 upon 8. So I got all the values, isn't it? I can now find the expectation value of LZ. So expectation value of LZ will be equal to P1 lambda 1 plus P2 lambda 2 plus P3 lambda 3 plus P4 lambda 4, because there are 4 terms in the equation. Now P1 is 1 by 16 into what is lambda 1? I have calculated it is 0 plus P2 is 1 by 4 and lambda 2 is h cross plus P3 is 9 by 16. Lambda 3 is 0 plus P4 is 1 by 8 and lambda 4 is minus h cross. Now this will be equal to 0 plus h cross by 4 plus 0 minus h cross by 8. Okay. Now if I take the LCM, 8 4s will be 32. It will be 8 minus 4 by 32 into h cross, or 4 by 32 into h cross. 4 1s are 4 8s are. So it will be h cross upon 8. Option A should be the right answer. See, my suggestion is you better practice this type of sums, because they are very common in NET exam also, in SET exam also, in all the competitive exams. These are very simple mathematical questions. Only thing is you should know the concept and you should know the procedure. In this sum, I have not gone into much of the physics because I have to solve all the questions. I just told you the mathematical method to calculate this type of expectation value from the given wave function. Okay. Okay, moving on to the next question. The degeneracy of spectral term 3f is. See, for degeneracy there is a formula involving total angular momentum. This is 2j plus 1. This is degeneracy. Now we are talking about F, right? F orbital, s, p, d, f. Here n will be, the principal quantum number will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So angular quantum number will be 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. So for F, angular quantum will be 3 and J will be 3. Now to find the degeneracy, it is 2J plus 1. This will be equal to 2 into 3 plus 1, which will be equal to 7. Now when we are talking about 3F, you multiply it with the angular momentum 3 again, the orbital angular momentum. So this will be 21. So degeneracy is option A. Next question. The mathematical statement of optical theorem is, for optical theorem, the total cross section sigma will be equal to 4 pi upon k into imaginary term of the function f of theta when theta is equal to 0. So option D is the right answer. Okay, let's proceed. Next question is, the L, S and J quantum numbers corresponding to the ground state electronic configuration of boron are, there are the 4 options are given. Don't see the options in this type of questions. Just calculate L, S and J. Whatever answer is matching with the options, that is the right answer. Okay. So for boron, Z is equal to 5 means electronic configuration will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p1. So this is the outermost orbit. Now when we talk about P, N will be like I did here. N will be for P, N will be 2 and L will be 1. Okay. Let me write it again for you or else. So SPDF, principal quantum number will be 1, 2, 3, 4 and then orbital angular momentum. This will be less 1 less than N, isn't it? So 0, 1, 2, 3. Now N for P orbital is 2. L for P orbital is 1. So I got L as 1. I got one quantum number. I want 2 more. I want spin and angular quantum number. Spin means there is only one electron in the outermost orbit. So it will have only half. Spin will be half. Next J, the angular quantum number. That will be equal to L minus S. This is equal to, this is L. 1 minus half. This will be half. So I got L as 1, S as half, J as half. So 1 half half. Option C is the right answer. Okay. Next sum. Assuming that the LS coupling scheme is valid, the number of permitted transitions from 2p3 by 2 to 2s1 by 2 due to weak magnetic field is. There are 4 options. Weak magnetic field means, as I told earlier, they are talking about Zeeman effect. Anyway, for 2p3 by 2, how many sublevels will be there? Including 3 by 2, there will be plus or minus 3 by 2 and plus or minus half. Total 2 plus 2. There will be 4 sublevels. And in 2s1 by 2, only plus or minus half will be there. So 2 sublevels. So what will be the permitted transitions? 4 plus 2, 6 permitted transitions are there. So option D is the right option. Okay, moving on. Next question. The operators Lx, Ly and Lz are, whether they are intrinsic operators, they are Hermitian, they are parity operators or they are non-Hermitian. See, what I feel is the term Hermitian is always a hero. Maximum times that will be the right answer. But still, I don't advise you to tick the answer blindly wherever Hermitian is there. Please don't do that. So I was just kidding. Okay. So the Lx, Ly and Lz operators, we are talking about them. See, if any operator, if it is not Hermitian, then it will give complex numbers as eigenvalues. But we know that angular momentum is not a complex number, isn't it? It is a real number. So for the operator to become real number, then it should be Hermitian. That's why option B is the right answer. Okay, 101. The eigenvalue of the parity operator is. I think it is +1 and -1. Yeah, I think it is +1 and -1, option A. But still, if I am going wrong here, please let me know. And please also tell me the reason why this is wrong. Okay, moving on. Next question. For an electron in hydrogen atom, the states are characterized by the usual quantum numbers n, l and ml. The electric dipole transition between any two states requires that. There are 4 options. See, if it doesn't click in your mind also, if it doesn't click the selection rules for electric dipole transition also, just to see the options, angular momentum, whatever it is, your magnetic quantum number will be equal to -L to +L, isn't it? So if, see, in the 3 options, delta L is plus or -1. In option B, delta L is 0. Let us try for option B first. If delta L is 0 means your delta ML should have been only 0. There is no chance of plus or -1 here. So this is the wrong option. Rest 3, delta L is plus or -1. If delta L is plus or -1, then delta ML, the magnetic quantum number, should be -1, 0 and 1. So this is there only in option D. So option D is the right answer. So this is one way of solving the problem actually. See, it didn't click in our mind that what is the selection rule for electric dipole transition. We don't know. In case we don't know, there are maximum chances that we don't know. But in that type of situation, we can use this type of logic, isn't it? This is a general thing. We know that delta ML is -L to L. So it was possible for us to find the right answer. Okay, next question. The first law of thermodynamics stands for the conservation of. See, first law of thermodynamics is referred as the law of conservation of energy also. So option C is the right answer. It tells about the heat, isn't it? It states that heat added to the system, it will increase the internal energy and then plus work done by the system also. So here energy is conserved. So option C is the right answer. Okay, moving on. Next question. Given for solar radiation, lambda m is 4753 angstroms and Wien's constant is given. The surface temperature of the sun is. There is a Wien's law, isn't it? It states that the wavelength is inversely proportional to the temperature. Or I can also write as lambda T is equal to some constant that obviously will be known as Wien's constant. Here they have given the symbol B. Now they want us to find the temperature. So temperature T will be equal to B upon lambda. B is 2.898 into 10 raised to -3 meter Kelvin upon wavelength 4753. I like to simplify things. So here I write 2.9 in the numerator. I keep 10 raised to -3 aside so that I will use it after I get the answer. And in the denominator I make 4750. And here I have 10 raised to -3. So if we simplify, we get around 6100 Kelvin. So this is equal to around 6097 Kelvin. So option C will be the right answer. Okay. Next question. Which of the following states exists? 2p3/2 state exists. I will show you one interesting thing here. Actually, if it didn't click, actually you may get confused between p3/2 and p5/2 because p3/2 and p5/2 both exist, isn't it? So you may get confused. But in this question paper, you have a hint. You go back to the question 99. See here, they are telling that this exists, isn't it? Or else why they would have asked a number of permitted transition. Transitions means it is existing. That's why they are asking transition, right? So with this, you have a very nice hint and you can have the right answer here. Okay. Next question. Which of the following molecules does not exhibit a rotational spectrum? See here, they are talking about molecules, and it is very common for us that rotational spectrum occurs in this type of molecules, isn't it? Hydrogen bromide, carbon monoxide, or HCl. So option B should be the right answer, hydrogen. It does not exhibit a rotational spectrum. Okay, next question. The hyperfine splitting of the spectral lines of an atom is due to. The hyperfine splitting of spectral lines of an atom is due to spin-orbit interaction or coupling between the spins and orbital angular momentum of the electron. So option C will be the right answer. Okay, moving on. Next question. A second order phase transition is characterized by a. See, don't see the options. Just remember this. In first order transition, there is change in entropy and volume. And in second order transition, there is a discontinuous change in specific heat, thermal expansion, and bulk modulus of the material. So, option C, discontinuous change in specific heat, is the right option. Next question. In a grand canonical ensemble, the comprising systems are capable of exchanging. There are 4 options. Here the right option is both energy and particles. See here, for micro-canonical ensemble, no exchange of energy and particles will take place. For canonical ensemble, only exchange of energy will take place. And for grand canonical ensemble, both exchange of energy and particles will take place. So these are the 3 types of canonical ensembles: micro-canonical ensemble, canonical ensemble, and grand canonical ensemble. And these 3, they are different. I showed you how. So please keep in mind, always one question comes from this topic. Okay, moving on. The partition function of 2 base particles, each of which can occupy any of the 2 energy levels, 0 and epsilon, is. Here I think they will give grace marks because there is maybe a printing mistake or whatever it may be. It may be a typo error or what. But this is not base. It should be Bose particles. So maybe there are chances that they give grace marks. I don't know what they are going to do. Okay. So we will consider that these are 2 Bose particles and we will proceed. Now we can solve this finding the partition function formula. Z is equal to summation e to the minus epsilon I Ni by kT. Here epsilon I is energy of quantum state occupied by Ni particle. Now 2 Bose particles are given. So they are indistinguishable. So N1 will be 1 and N2 will be 2. And they have given in the question that there are 2 energy levels which are 0 and epsilon. So using this formula, we can calculate the partition function. So Z is equal to e to the minus, for first energy level 0, by kT into 2 plus e to the minus 0 by kT for the, this was for the second particle. This one will be for the first particle plus e to the, for the energy level E upon kT for second particle plus e to the minus epsilon by kT for first particle. So wherever e to the 0 is there, it is going to become 1, right? 1 plus 1 plus e to the minus 2 epsilon by kT plus e to the minus epsilon by kT, or Z is equal to 2 plus e to the minus 2 epsilon by kT plus e to the minus epsilon by kT. So option D, will be the right answer. Okay, moving on. A diode D is shown in the circuit as an IV relation which can be approximated by. They have given that relation. They have told that ID will become VD square plus 2VD for V0 is greater than 0, or ID will become 0 for V0 is less than or equal to 0. Now we have to find the voltage across this diode VD, keeping this relation in mind, because this is 0. I don't think this is going to help. So by Ohm's law, we have V is equal to IR. For this thing, current here, I can find V is equal to IR or I is equal to V by R, because I don't have current right now. So input current will be 10 volts by 1 ohm. So it will be 10 amperes. Now this current will only act as ID also, right? There is no other current here. So ID will be 10 amperes. Now they have given the relation VD square plus 2VD will be equal to ID. So VD square plus 2VD will be equal to 10 amperes. Now remove the suffix D. In exams, no, these suffixes they put us in trouble. So V square plus 2V minus 10 is equal to 0. This is like a quadratic equation. AX square plus BX plus C is equal to 0. But we cannot factorize it unless and until we use the quadratic equation formula. So that will be equal to minus B plus or minus root of B square minus 4AC by 2. Here A is 1, B is 2 and C is minus 10. So substitute all that, and this X is our V, isn't it? V or VD. This will be equal to minus 2 plus or minus root of 2 square minus 4 into A is 1, C is minus 10 divided by 2. Or this is equal to minus 2 plus or minus square root of 4 plus 40 by 2. So this will be equal to, if I take 2 outside, it will be 1 plus or minus square root of, here 44 was there, isn't it? So 11 4 is 44. I can write 11 here so that I take 2 outside by 2. So this 2 gets cancelled. So this will be equal to minus 1 plus or minus root 11. This is like this. Or minus 1, this minus and this minus gets cancelled. It will be plus root 11 volts. So option B will be the right answer. Okay, moving on. Next question. A number 1023 has base x. Then which of the statement is correct? Here you will get confused if you start with 1023. Okay, so I suggest you to start with the options. First to see whether it is base 2 or no. You try to convert from base 2 to decimal equivalent. Or you better convert from decimal equivalent to base 2. That is very much helpful actually. You convert from decimal equivalent to base, whatever the base is. Try for 2 also and try for 4 also. Okay, you can start from anywhere you want to. Let us do for 2 first. So for 15. Or you start from options. Why to get confused? You start from A, B, C. So in option A, they have given 35. Okay, convert it with base 4. 4 8s are 32, 3 is remaining, 4 2s are 8, 0 is remaining, then nothing. So 203. No. We want 1023, right? So option B, 15. 2 7s are 14, 1 is remaining, 2 3s are 6, 1 is remaining, 2 1 1, 2 1s are 2, 1 is remaining. This is also not the option. Then 75. 2 3s are 6, 2 7s are 14, 1. Then 2 1s are 2, 2 8s are 16, 1. So this also, if it will become lengthy, but it's not going to be our answer. Then next is 75. 4. 4 1s are 4, 4 8s are, then 3 will be remaining. 4 4s are 16, 2 will be remaining. 4 1s are 4, 0 will be remaining. So 1 0 2 3. This is the right option, 4 and 75. Option A. Okay, next question. What is the value of output voltage V0 when the switch is closed? If this switch is closed. Here they have not mentioned the resistance. I think it will be 1 kilo ohm only, maybe something like that. Anyway, so they want us to find the V naught. First, let me do it here before it gets into the operational amplifier. Here V is equal to IR. So V is equal to IR, or I is equal to V by R. I will be equal to minus 5 volts by 2 kilo ohms. Let it be like that only. We don't need to worry about kilo ohms because kilo ohms is there in both the resistors. It will be minus 2.5 amperes. Okay, that kilo is there. Next, for the output thing, I have to include this, isn't it? So if I want to include this, the combination of these resistors and this resistor are in parallel. This also will be 1 kilo ohms, I think. They have not given maybe. So they are in parallel. So 2 into 2 by 2 plus 2. So the equivalent resistance will be 1 kilo ohm. Now again, what will be the V naught? I have R. V naught will be equal to I into R, or minus 2.5 into 1. This is equal to minus 2.5 volts. This should be the right answer, but still if I am making any mistake, please let me know. Okay. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure. Maybe they will give grace marks for this because they have not given this value of this resistor. Maybe, I don't know. Let us see. Okay. Next question. Which among the following converters is digital to analog converter? R to 2R ladder network. It is a digital to analog converter. Option A is the right answer. Then in an operational amplifier differentiator, the feedback element is resistor. Somewhere while turning the pages in the textbook, you must have seen, isn't it? For the operational amplifier, the feedback is always resistor. Maybe you should have seen this type of figure. So recalling that type of things, we can answer these simple questions. Next question. A logic circuit represents the internal circuit of a car which activates the bulb. To activate the bulb, what minimum conditions are to be achieved? The following are high signals. They have given high signals for pressure, temperature, speed and height. Okay, here there is a NOT gate, then there is a NAND gate, then there is a NOR gate, then another NOR gate. Okay, let's see the truth table first. For the NAND gate, when both inputs are low, output is high. For the NOR gate, when both inputs are low, output is high. Let's keep this in mind. Also, we know that for a NOT gate, if the input is high, output will be low. If the input is low, output will be high. Let's consider that all these are at highs initially. After a NOT gate, they will become lows. Then two lows will go through a NAND gate, then they will become high. Two lows go through a NOR gate, they will become high. Then both highs become the input of a NOR gate. So both highs become the input of a NOR gate. So it should be low. The output should be low. So what is the option where all the four signals are low? P is less than 0.4, less than 300, less than 40, less than 15. So option D should be the right answer. This is what I thought. If you have any other idea, please let me know. Okay. Next question. Graphene consists of, actually graphene is made up of entirely carbon. It is actually either made up of single layer or several coupled layers of carbon atoms. They form hexagonal lattice. This is commonly known as honeycomb lattice also. Okay. They form like this. Okay, something like this. So this is a honeycomb structure. Okay, moving on. So here the option B is the right answer. Least squares estimates minimizes. What is the least squares? Means it is summation of squares of errors. There is a formula also for this. Please check around. Okay, so option B is the right answer. Next question. The melting point of particles in nano form normally, for the melting point, now what happens is it decreases sharply in the nanoform as the particle reaches the critical diameter. So it decreases sharply. So option C is the right answer. The properties of nanomaterials differ from bulk materials due to what is the speciality of nanomaterials is that they are of smaller size, but their surface area is larger. That's the reason why people use them in experiments. Lot of research is going on in nanomaterials since many years. Okay. So smaller size and larger surface area. Option B is the right answer. Okay, moving on. Question number 121. A meter rod is moving along a positive x-axis with the velocity 0.6 times c. C is the velocity of light. Its length as measured by a stationary observer in meter is. So we have the formula for length contraction. L is equal to L naught square root of 1 minus v square by c square. So the meter rod means 1. Square root of 1 minus, in place of velocity we have 0.6 c whole square by c square. This c square will get cancelled. Square root of 1 minus 0.36 or square root of 0.64. This will give you 0.8 meters. So option C will be the right answer. Okay. Next question. During the annihilation of a particle and its antiparticle, the energy released is E. Mass of each particle is C. For one single particle, energy is E is equal to mc square. They are talking about annihilation of a particle and its antiparticle. That is, there are two particles. So for two particles, energy will be twice mc square. They are asking mass of each particle. So m will become E by 2c square. So option C will be the right answer. Okay, moving on. Nanomaterials are the materials with at least one dimension measuring less than, it is 100 nanometers. Nanomaterials, for nanomaterials, at least one dimension is 100 nanometers. It is less than 100 nanometers. Okay, next question. Okay, this is a repeated question. The option D is the right answer. Next question. A material with one dimension in nano range and the other two dimensions are large is called quantum well. That's the reason why it is called quantum well. So option D is the right answer. Okay, next question. The last question of this question paper. The mass of an electron is double its rest mass. Then the velocity of the electron is. We know that m is equal to m naught by square root of 1 minus v square by c square when we talk about relativistic theory. So here they say that the mass of the electron is double its rest mass. M naught is the rest mass. This is the mass of the electron. They say that it is double, so it should be 2 times m naught. This should be 2 times m naught. This is equal to m naught by 1 minus square root of v square minus c square. M naught and m naught will get cancelled. So we have to find the velocity of the electron. So velocity means v, we have to find. So square root of 1 minus v square by c square will become 1 upon 2, or 1 minus v square by c square will become 1 upon 4, or v square by c square will become, here minus is there, 1 by 4 minus 1, or minus v square by c square will become minus 3 by 4. This minus will get cancelled, or v square will be 3 by 4 c square, or v will be equal to square root of 3 by 2 into c. So option D will be the right answer. Okay, hence the paper is completed. As I told earlier also, please let me know if I have made any mistakes, or please give me the feedback. I need the feedback. Actually, I want to teach the physics which people need, which you all need. That's why I am telling you again and again. Please give me your feedback in the comment section. And solving this paper was really a very good experience. Thank you all for encouraging me. You all encouraged so much, so nice comments you have written. So that's why I was motivated to complete the paper as soon as possible. So for further venture also, please let me know what you all want me to teach in physics. Okay. Thank you.